Clarkson. Clarkson at the rim. Slam dunk. Game in the refrigerator. And the Lakers are going to win on Kobe's last night. He's going to score 60. And I don't believe what I just saw.
Kobe doing work. 2-4 on my shirt. He the greatest on the court, and I'm the greatest on the verse.
Made that saying famous. I don't believe what I just saw, but for Laker Nation in the NBA world, that night was surreal. 60 points, Mamba out, final game. Keyshawn, Jay, Will, and Zubin were presented by Progressive Insurance. All of our guests appear this morning on the Goodyear Hotline. There'll be plenty of discussion about Kobe Bryant. He is decked out. He's got the 8 for Kobe. He's got the 24 on the left sleeve for Kobe if you're watching this morning on ESPN2. And speaking of 2, he's got the 2 for his daughter Gigi, who also perished in that helicopter crash. I'm sure most people remember exactly where they were when they heard the news. Key, you have a personal connection to the story, literally and figuratively, with regard to proximity. Weigh us in. Take us inside your experience that day. Of course, Jay, he served as a mentor to you. We'll get to that as well as we remember Kobe Bryant throughout the course of the morning.
Yeah, it was one of those wild mornings, right? Everybody across the world, as the news kind of shocked us all. I was just at home in Los Angeles, in Calabasas, and I was in the bed, and at the time my wife was headed back from working out at the Mamba facility, which is wild, right?
Right. I mean, think about
it. She called my phone, and I was like, you know how it is, your phone's vibrating over and over and over again. I'm like,
right.
What the hell do you want?
Right. It's early now on the West Coast.
It's early. I'm asleep. And so I'm like, oh, God. So I wake up, and she goes, you here? So at that point, I'm like, hear what? And so I stand up, whatever. I get up in the bed. She's explaining to me. She goes, Kobe Bryant helicopter just crashed in Calabasas. I'm like, no helicopter crashed in Calabasas. She said, no, I'm telling you, turn on the news. So I'm thumbing through, trying, at this point now I got up. I'm turning on the news. There's nothing on the news yet. Now I'm looking through all the little stuff. I'm, looking. Then all of a sudden things started trickling in slowly. I'm like, nah, man, hold on. So then I look out my window to try to see what I could see. Mm-hmm. And I can't see anything because it's cloudy. It's all the fog. Mm-hmm. So now I'm saying to myself, okay, she's like, it's behind our house, babe. I'm like, it's not. Okay, fine. I get up and I go, Zubin and Jay. I get in my car because I got, it's cold, so I'm not going to walk. I got in the car, believe it or not, to go down the end of the block to the cul-de-sac. And so as I go down the end of the block to the cul-de-sac, I start to see people coming that way from inside the community. It was probably 20 people or so. They're walking toward the end of the cul-de-sac because at the end of the cul-de-sac, you can look over the hillside. And I'm like, and so as I'm talking to people, I'm like, oh, so I see like guys that I know, Al Harrington and some other guys, and we're talking, and I'm like, oh man. So then I get in my car, go out of the community to around the other way to Los Virgenes, which is the street that butts up to the hillside, which is about 150 yards from my backyard.
Yeah.
And so at that point, the streets are blocked off, everything. So I park, I get out, I walk, and I'm talking to people. I see more people that live in the neighborhood. And so I'm talking to like Kenyon Martin and just some other guys. And then I talked to one of the sheriff officers. I'm like, is that Kobe or whatever? And so he's like, can't say right now. So when he starts saying those sort of things, I'm like, wow. Then all the news of different people on the helicopter start to come in and different things start to happen. And so you, at that moment, you just like numb to the nth degree. Things start playing in your mind about everything. And, and then you're not oblivious to certain things, right? We're not. And so as you just start to hear it, Jay, it just start coming in more and more, and phones start ringing and everybody. And then you look up within 30 minutes, I'm talking about, man, that entire area was just swarmed with Laker fans and Kobe Bryant fans.
Key, this has been 2020 has been a crazy year. I think we all can attest to that. And this is the first moment that it kind of kicked off the year, right? Like one of the first things that kind of kicked off all these series of events that started to occur. And it feels like 5 years ago that this happened, but at the same time, it feels like yesterday. It really does. It was something I feel as if everybody remembers exactly where they were when this story broke. I remember being at home with my daughter who had just been born and with my wife and thinking it was a prank, seeing it across like the TMZ clicker or whatever you want to call it, how TMZ reports it, and then getting the notice from ESPN, living there in Brooklyn before I was able to move, Key, and literally jumping in my car, still not even being able to process what the hell was going on. And then, Zubin, it's interesting that you and I find ourselves working together. That was, I guess you can call that one of the most official days that you and I kind of kicked off our relationship because, I was on air, 45 minutes later trying to process in real time, what a guy like Kobe, who was a mentor, like a big brother to me, meant to me in my life, and trying to articulate that to the world. Really not having all the information while we were trying to sift through all that in real time while you were on air on SportsCenter all day long, interviewing people. It was just the beginning of a really challenging year, but also the day that I remember almost, I had a moment that happened to me when I got in my accident. I think this was another moment that it was a life awakening moment for me to recognize what I had in front of me instead of getting lost once again into the weeds or the frustration that we typically go through on a day-to-day basis.
Last thing I would say is Kobe Bryant is the Lakers' all-time leader. The Lakers' all-time leader in points, minutes, and games. So it's a reflection, whether you're a casual fan or a hardcore Lakers fan, that Kobe gave you more memories in a Lakers uniform than any other Laker ever. More than Magic, more than Kareem, more than Wilt, more than Big Game James, more than Shaq. He is the Lakers' all-time leader in points, minutes, games. So any way you want to quantify it, 48 minutes on the clock, games started over the course of a season or collectively, you got to enjoy watching Kobe in purple and gold more than any other Laker of all time. And we'll discuss much more about Kobe Bryant with Michael Eaves, my partner on SportsCenter that day, who covered the Lakers for many, many years prior to joining ESPN, where he does a fabulous job working on SportsCenter, doing a lot of UFC coverage as well. But we'll go down memory lane with Michael Eaves and some of his memories coming up at 7 a.m. Eastern. Spike Lee will join us this morning. I know this is a long way away, but this is a special day at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. Spike joined us that day on the air as well, obviously a gigantic basketball fan. On the way, as crazy as this question sounds, we'll broach it, and somebody will try to defend it. Has this season already been a success for the defending Super Bowl champions, even though everyone expected them to go back-to-back, and they haven't done it just yet? And what do we think about the Bucs with regards to success? Discussing that on the way, a dozen days away from Super Bowl 55. Next on Keyshawn, J. Will, and Zubin.
Have a chance to repeat, get to do it against the best. It's something special, and I'm excited for the opportunity.
Their door's not closing anytime.
Play there.
That's how it happens, if it happens.
Well, okay. Here's what I'm going to say. It could happen, but in Aaron Rodgers' case, it's so hard because he is Green Bay. He is Green Bay, Jay. Not just as a player, but as just everything. It's Aaron Rodgers, Green Bay Packers. Super Bowl champion, taking them to championship games. It's just, that's a hard one. You've got to put that sort of stuff on the organization unless you could explain why you really want out, because you would be letting so many people in that region and across the NFL down. So you better be sure that that is what you want, because once you say that, there is no turning back.
Chances are remote he's gone, but imagine that could possibly be the last play. If he's gone, that 4th and 8 play would be the last snap he ever had.
And Zubin, I'll say this, Tom Brady was a New England Patriot for a long time. Now look who he is.
Yeah. Michael Jordan, Joe Montana, Wayne Gretzky, all the greats wore more than one
Zubin
uniform.
Mehenti,
Zubin
sports
Mehenti.
senior to us.
No doubt, no doubt. Obviously, I wore a sweater, so I'm more of a hockey guy. I didn't wear a jersey. I wore a sweater. On the way, as you know, today we're celebrating the life of Kobe Bryant. He died 1 year ago today. Key knew him very well. He's got a very personal connection to the day itself. Jay, of course, played against him. We'll talk about their memories of the Mamba forever, after Key has this from Indeed.
Let's make sure I get this read clean, because yesterday I was bumbling, stumbling, and trumbling. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. When you upgrade your job post, Indeed immediately delivers candidates